what are the things that you remember the most fondly in this decade of building these businesses together? And what are the things that you're just like, oh God, I'm so glad we got through that. We just barely pulled through that. That was the scariest thing ever. What moments do you think about in your head when you're sleeping
Well,
or thinking
man,
about the last
what is life
decade?
without the occasional existential threat, It's like,
What keeps you awake at night?
yeah. So favorite moments in the last 10 years, I would say on our way to the first clean show in 2017 in Las Vegas on the plane,
Hmm.
that feeling of, I did this. I'm going to the show as an exhibitor. I've got my buddy and business partner, Ian, with me on the
Right.
plane, but I'm going on my own dime. My parents are John and Zila Henderson, wonderful people. And they very graciously brought me along to several laundromat owner type events in the past. And so I had been to a few CLA events and clean shows and all that, but only ever as an attendee, and going where my folks had paid for my travel to go to that event and all that. It made me a better operations manager and helped us grow the businesses and all that too. So it was money. I like to think it was money well spent on education, but
Hmm.
going for the first time with income that I had made from my own business, just that manifest destiny, that becoming my own man, traveling under my own power, and going as an exhibitor to sell my own product at this show was an extremely satisfying moment. It was in terms of self-actualization, if you want to get into that, that was an important part. It was an important first step, because for years, going to these laundromat owner conventions and talking to other people, and I would speak as if I was an owner because I had a feeling of ownership of my family's laundromats and all that too. But talking to
Yeah.
other laundromat owners who were there because of their own businesses, and just being around that crowd, I for years wanted to join them, to stand on my own 2 feet as somebody who was a business owner, who was there under his own power. And so that was the first glimpse of that. And then fast forward years later, after we had purchased the 3 laundromats all in one swoop from my folks. And that's quite the thing too. That's the next step, is buying 3 laundromats in their prime.
Hmm.
But having the resources to do that because Wash-Dry-Fold POS had been so successful. So it was this fun, coming around again type of situation. So attending the last clean show as a business owner, as a laundromat owner, in addition to owning Wash-Dry-Fold POS, was a very satisfying moment there too. So I'd say there's some of my favorite moments there.
Yeah, I think that's really well put, especially the self-actualization thing. To me, that's not why I started this journey at all. Um, but maybe it was, maybe there was some piece of it that maybe there's some piece of me that knew, sure, I could work for a company for forever and just be a salesperson, and maybe that's a safer bet. But I think there was.
You were so disengaged by before you joined me in
Right.
this side hustle.
Hmm. Hmm.
You were kind of tuned out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think I knew there was more that I wanted to do and become. And you have these narratives you tell about yourself, but then if there's no actions, you could be capable of building something, but then how do you know if you don't actually build it? But then, maybe the economic incentive helped push me out the door. You know what I mean? If it really came down to like, well, what do you think is a better investment of your time for the next 10 years, working for an S&P 500 company, or building your own business that doesn't really have a ceiling or a limit on what you can learn and do and
That's one of my
become.
favorite things, is talking to other laundromat owners about what led you to laundromat ownership.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And it's a lot of that same story of, well, I was working a corporate job and it was sucking my will to live.
Sure.
And I realized that as an employee somewhere, I would never get to where I wanted to go. And
That's
so,
right.
and then there's a number of features of laundromats that drew me to the industry in terms of not needing a lot of inventory. The store can run without you there, and
Yeah.
needs for employees is minimal if you're doing just a self-serve type of setup, and and this, that, and the other. And then my community was underserved by laundromats, and so that's what led me to own laundromats. And so,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. So 10 scariest moments, or not 10, sorry, just in the last
scariest
10
moments the last 10
years.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Scariest moments in the last 10 years. So is there anything that
Oh
you look
man.
back on and think, man, that could have sunk the ship, or I'm just glad that we made it through that moment?
Yeah.
What were
So
the moments that really had you questioning your
there's
last
some for
decisions?
Wash-Dry-Fold POS, and then there's some for Liberty Laundry. For Liberty Laundry, that phone call that every laundromat owner is scared to get from the store manager, Kathy, calling me, voice shaky, saying, "Brian, there is a fire. I can't get it to go out."
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Okay, call 911, and I'll be on my way. So a
Hmm.
dryer fire. We've
Yeah.
had in the first year of us owning these laundromats, after I had been away from the laundromats for a few years by that point in time,
Mhm.
stepped away from operations in 2018 to focus just on Wash-Dry-Fold POS because they had grown enough by that point in time, and then acquiring the stores in 2023. In that first year, we had, was it 2 or 3 dryer fires?
Well, I know it's 3 within 12 months of
That's
buying it.
rough. That's rough.
Hmm.
We haven't
Yeah.
had one
That was
since.
brutal. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been replacing dryers. We've been very, very, very aggressive about preventative maintenance and all that
Lowered the
too. But
temperature. Yeah. Hmm.
dealing with fire, fortunately, each time the damage was limited to just the one machine, and in fact, 2 out of the 3 times we were able to put the dryer back into service like by the
Hmm.
next day after a bit of cleanup and all that. So thank goodness
Yep.
for that.
And
I
even in
used to,
that third one that we
yeah.
get, I think we opened the next day or later that day,
Yeah,
but
and the biggest part of the cleanup
surprising.
was the exhaust from the fire extinguisher. That so
It's everywhere.
so we've learned, and we've helped put in place systems to help prevent that in the future, and never say never, because people bring in things and you don't have really control over the fact that they have nail polish all over those rags that they put straight into the dryer and didn't use your washers at all.
Hmm. Yep.
It's like they're
Yep.
trying to do it on purpose, but so that's a scary call. And back in the day, even before I owned laundromats, when I was just running the family business, I used to worry. I used to worry deeply about, well, what if the place burns down to the ground? What if,
Hmm.
what if there's I mean, we're in Oklahoma. What if a tornado hits the place? I mean, that's a very
Yep.
real threat here in Oklahoma.
It happens.
But
Yeah.
realizing, well, that's why insurance exists. You
Hmm.
set in place the things that you can control. And then for the things outside of that, then just make sure you have a really good insurance policy. And it sounds silly and trite to say that, but that realization actually has helped me kind of be a bit more relaxed about it. Like, worst case scenario, you rebuild, and then you continue on
Hmm.
with what you know how to do. So it's
Yep.
not so bad as all that.
Anything for the software company for Wash-Dry-Fold POS?
Well, yeah, I want to touch one last thing on for the laundromats,
Mm.
getting broken into. We've had break-ins over the
Yeah.
years, and I would
That
say
was
the
a
most.
mess. Yeah.
I am so very grateful that we've never had a situation where we were robbed and somebody was hurt. That's never happened. Break-ins have
Mm-hmm.
only ever happened for us after hours when there was no one there in the store. So thank goodness. But I would say the scariest times is that's happened has been twice now, where there had been a break-in and I had shown up about an hour later before the store opened, not knowing that there had been a break-in because the security alarm system didn't go off.
Hmm.
And so to show up to the business and go, wait, why is that window broken? No, no. And not knowing if there's somebody in the store or something, that's a
Hmm.
terror. So that would be a scariest moment there too. So folks, invest in really good security systems. Make sure they actually work, and also invest in very good security cameras so that they can then later identify and catch the knucklehead who shattered your window and ripped open the office and then banged up the the kiosks and change machines, but didn't actually get any money, but they cost several
Mhm.
$1,000s of damage there. So,
And he got
yeah.
prosecuted, right? I mean, they
Oh
did
yeah. Cause
track him
I mean,
down and
he targeted multiple places. So get
mhm,
enough of a trail,
mhm.
then,
Yep.
there's that. So
Yep.
I would say that's the scariest stuff for the laundromats. Is just the threat of fires and then break-ins. And, um, for stuff outside of that, then, the only other scary times is just really if there's like an altercation in the store because people are fighting over machines or they brought it in
Mhm.
with them. And so but that's all that comes with any business that serves the public. Scariest moments for Wash-Dry-Fold POS. There have been a couple of times where I felt or worried that there was a threat when there wasn't really. And one of those is part of the origin of what led to us building our own cloud-based software entirely in-house. We were a reseller of existing point of sale software, but we just focused on laundromats and we had a lot of kind of proprietary settings and ways of doing things that were just designed to serve laundromats. That was our target customer. That's all we were after. And
Mhm.
we even had some additional add-on software for labeling bags of laundry. And then later for text messaging customers, that was proprietary and all that.
Mhm.
But this, this company that we were resellers of, they made some moves that made us concerned that the subscriptions that we had been selling for some time that they weren't collecting on that properly. We had been earning our share as the distributor, but they
Well,
completely
they told
mishandled
us,
it. Yeah.
yeah, they told us they weren't collecting on it properly. So yeah, we knew that a lot of this money had not been collected ever. Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know how much we want to get into that for this discussion, but we had been crafting our own cloud-based software built in-house with all this feedback from hundreds of laundromat owners by that point in time,
Hmm.
over the past 5 years at that point, that we were close to launching anyway. But when it came to light that this other company, this vendor that we had been reliant on collecting the subscriptions from, hadn't actually been collecting from anyone for a long time, it was like, okay, all right, you know what? We're switching over to our own software. It's ready enough for prime time. And so we launched that. And so it took one of the scary existential moments in the history of Wash-Dry-Fold POS and turned it into a very clear turning point because
Yeah.
looking at our own internal graphs of growth of the company and revenue over time and all that, it's a clear inflection point of going from being okay business that's enough to sustain you and me to now, multiple times where we were and having a whole team and fueling the movement that's happening
Hmm.
now as we've continued to grow and all that too. And it was very much that moment of just realizing, you know what, we are not going to depend on somebody else for our core product anymore. And we're
Hmm.
going to take it and control it ourselves entirely and then have all these additional features like order tracking, which was not even part of our feature set back in the day. And
Hmm.
now it's our core thing of Wash-Dry-Fold POS is tracking orders through the whole process. It was enabled by our own cloud-based software that we launched. So it needed to happen. And this was very much a kick out of the nest because we thought that
Yeah.
the nest was going to be gone. So
That was the moment for me too. I think,
yeah.
looking back 10 years, definitely that, because I had just quit my corporate job and I was, quit to focus on selling Wash Dry Full POS full time. And then we didn't have a product to sell for a short period of time because we had to stop selling someone else's product and really kind of pivot into only developing and selling our own product. And in retrospect, that is when the company really took off. The product that we built was so much better than what we had been selling that it just became easier to sell. And we were ticking so many more boxes. And then of course, fast forwarding now, it's been 6 years or so. Obviously, the number of boxes we're able to tick now with all the integrations and the pickup and delivery
Mhm.
and all that. I mean, it's so clear that that really needed to happen. but yeah, we just weren't ready for it. We were like, oh, we're going to build this thing. We've been working on it. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, that's now the only option you have. And how quick can we have it ready? Um, and there was definitely a month or two there where people called me and said, hey, I'm ready to buy. And I said, okay, I can sell it to you next month. And,
Yeah.
it was like, well, I don't have anything to sell right this second,
Well, yeah. And then,
but I will have it soon. Yeah.
and on top of that is also, I think a lot of business owners went through this, the whole COVID lockdown stuff. That
Oh,
was another
yeah.
kind of scary moment in a way, because we literally had several sales deals that March of 2020 that just completely
Fell
fell
through.
flat. That, I mean, they were about ready to buy, just about ready to pull the trigger, and then all the lockdowns happened, and we had a lot of people say, I'm going to wait a while. And so seeing the
Right.
sales go, just down like that, that was also impetus to keep driving on developing our own software, so that our costs were manageable, because it was all in house. And so it actually, again, scary moment turned into our advantage, because that gave us time and space over that year for building our own software in house, all throughout the summer of 2020 and all that too. And then it was the very
Yep.
tail end of that year that we then launched it, when that whole thing with the prior software vendor fell through. So it all went from scary moments to some of the best stuff that happened to us. So,
Well, and I didn't think about it at the time, but even just now, it's maybe the first time thinking of it in this light. But uh, if you look at so many other industries and so many other businesses, what COVID did was really expose vulnerabilities in the supply line, in the chain. And so if there was a place where if that failed, then the whole machine couldn't
yes.
operate. It exposed all that to our company. And then it forced us then to get redundancies on everything, bring everything in house. And it really forced us to build a lot of the value that if we had just been, walking along whistling our song, then maybe we wouldn't have uh, been forced into, working really hard to create these infrastructures and these systems that are more resilient.
Well,
Um,
this gets
yeah.
into laundromat ownership too. And a question that you had for me on the list of questions there was, how do you keep a cool head when you're faced with
Hmm.
tough situations? And
Yeah.
it really keeps coming back around to a phrase I heard yesterday, solving for peace.
Mhm.
How can you design your business and your operations in such a way that if the worst comes, then that's fine, because you've got your bases covered. And so for
Mhm.
Wash-Dry-Fold POS, it was from day one being determined to build it in a way that was profitable from the start,
Mhm.
realizing that it was a business model where we could collect payment up front and then fulfill the order and get the hardware to them, and get them
Mhm.
up and going with that. And so that profitability first on that side of things. Same for the laundromats, of making sure that you don't get out ahead of your own skis. Obviously, we don't ski much
Mhm.
here in Oklahoma, maybe water skiing with our lakes, but not meaning how much debt you have to the amount of income you're generating. Obviously, it's a lot of capital to put in equipment in laundromats, and so oftentimes debt is used, commercial debt
Mhm.
for that. But how big is your note? What is the debt service like? And if
Mhm.
you're so in over your head and the rent is atrocious and you ignored those basic fundamentals, the moment a stiff breeze comes along, it just knocks you right out. And so for,
Mhm.
COVID and all that, a lot of business owners and all sorts of industries face that.
Yeah.
When the cash flow slows down or stops, are you screwed, or can you continue living for a while? Do you have enough retained earnings you can keep going? And so
Mhm.
I think the fact that we have built Wash-Dry-Fold POS in a way that operationally it can go on indefinitely
Mhm.
is a real source of peace and a real source of strength. And I think that's part of what draws people to us, is just that stability of like, yeah, we're here for the long haul. We're not building a rocket ship. We're building a utility truck that can,
Yeah.
get you from here to there and is reliable for the long haul. Same for the laundromats. You and I have been very intentional about regular reinvestment of capital and upgrading equipment
Hmm.
over time, not doing it
Hmm.
all at once, but just as the cash flow makes sense for it, as well as a large, healthy dose of retained earnings too.
Hmm.
As a business partner, Ian, I think it's one of the best things about you is that you are fiscally conservative like me, and that that security gained by just being mindful, making sure that we have enough so that we can operate indefinitely if
Hmm.
something happens,
Yeah.
that gives you peace, that gives you strength, that gives you options. And yes, maybe you could grow faster if you were leveraged up to your ears,
Hmm.
but at what cost?
Yeah.
And so we've run both companies that way, and that gives you, that peace. And I think really that's what a lot of people look into buying laundromats, and or if they already own laundromats, looking a way to continue to improve what they're looking for. And laundromats are a very stable industry. And so again, we have two layers of stability for what we're doing. We own 3 laundromats, so it's not just one location; it's 3. So if anything goes
Hmm.
wrong with one location, we still have revenue from the other 2 stores.
Yep.
Laundromats, by their very nature, are kind of recession resistant, not recession proof, but recession resistant, and very stable throughout the whole year. You do have, some peaks and valleys of your revenue, depending on if you're in a college town or seasonal, people wear more clothes during the winter. So, they use the dryers more. So you earn more revenue, during the winter times
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
people are doing more laundry. But there's that stability. And then for our software technology company, we serve laundromats, which are a very stable business. They're not very seasonal, right? So
Hmm.
there's that. And then also we're serving laundromats across the country in all 50 states. And so we've got these
Yep.
layers and layers and layers of stability and peace, and making sure that we're not out over our skis. We're not leveraged, be out of control or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I do think, one of the things I was kind of thinking about before this episode, and also in that the things that are scary in the past 10 years, it was kind of crazy out of left field, just since we're on this topic of, oh, there's this new competitor come along, and
Yes.
no one's really saying much about them. And then all of a sudden, they've got a round of capital, and then they've got another round of capital. And then before you know it, they've got $70 million to, go after exactly your market that you've been, bootstrapping for the past, I guess the time was 5 or 6 years or whatever. I mean,
Well, it's
this
very
was,
validating.
yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
there is a market here. I
there is a
remember
market. Yeah.
when we first started, it was unclear if there was even anybody who was going to buy this
Yeah.
product, what
Yeah.
they would buy it at, how many laundromats would even need this type of product. I mean,
Hmm.
going all the way back to that conversation on the plane on our way to Las Vegas, right? Doing the
Hmm.
back of
Hmm.
the envelope type math and trying to figure out the total addressable market,
Hmm.
and why we bootstrapped and built our company the way we did. We've iterated. We've joked several times. It's 1,000 iterations to success, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just been little pieces that we've added on along the way, and really have stair stepped our way to success. And it's given us the time and space to make it successful and solid and solving real problems for real people.
Hmm.
But then
Hmm.
several years later, to then see somebody come in with venture capital money, and they're trying to take all the air out of the room, kind of things like.
Revolutionize the industry. Yeah. I think it's been interesting now that we've kind of lived through it in a way that, even with a lot of that capital deployed, we still were able to have our best year in 2025, right?
Oh
Last year
yes.
being our best year. And so it kind of does say, getting to that, like what you were saying about building on good fundamentals. It's like, if someone was like, oh, what if somebody gave, what if I got $70 million to try and take your lunch, to go after exactly what you've built your company around doing. And then that happened. And it's like, and now on the other side of it, it's like, actually, I think we're doing better than we've ever done. And part of it has been, we've had to self improve
Mhm.
at a faster rate because we've had a competitor that is so
Oh
aggressive.
yeah, yeah. It's the
Yeah,
capitalist competition thing. I've joked several times before saying, all I want is an uncontested monopoly. That's all I want.
right,
Same for laundromats. I
right,
want to be the only laundromats in town
right,
without any other store being built. I mean, I don't think that's too much to
totally,
ask. No,
right,
competition
right, right.
does make you stronger and better. And if you are
Yep,
solving real needs for real people, then you have a runway. And
yep,
again, if you've built your company profitably with solid foundations, then you're here for the
mhm,
long run. You and I have talked
yep,
before about how to assess price increases and then also how to do like threat risk analysis type stuff. And
mhm,
I
mhm,
always, it's just the way my brain works, is looking at best case scenario, worst case scenario. Worst case
yep.
scenario, everyone unsubscribes all at the same time and no one ever subscribes ever again.
That's pretty
That's worst case
bad.
scenario. I don't think that's going to happen, even if somebody
No,
has $1 billion to try to dominate the laundromat industry.
that's
I
right.
think
That's right.
we
Even with a
have,
billion, you couldn't do that. Yeah.
not to take our customers for granted, but our
No,
unsubscribe rate, the churn rate, is extremely low. And that
incredibly
means
low.
once
Yeah.
somebody, in
Yep.
fact, it's negative because our expansion revenue, as successful laundromat owners add more stores, add on more subscriptions, that happens regularly with our customer base.
Yep. Yep.
And that tells us that they're with us for the long haul, as long as we continue doing what we do and continue to improve the product and all that. And we have an obligation to laundromat owners. They are building their operations around using our software,
Mhm.
and they depend on it. And so for us to do anything that would put that at risk by taking
Mhm.
big swings or taking in a bunch of, capital that, where did it, where do they think they're going to get that $70 million back out of it, right? They're going to extract it out of their customers
Their customers. Yeah. Well, it's not
and not
70 million
just
that they
that,
want back.
it's they're
It's 10x
wanting
that. Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
of that,
Or 100x that. Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
bust.
And
Do that or bust, right?
right.
It's like,
Right.
no thanks.
Yeah. Going back to keeping a cool head, I have always been impressed that even when, an employee does something crazy or a customer does or said something crazy, you've always been able to kind of just have perspective on it and not get caught up in the moment of the passion of the thing that is going on right at this time. And I don't know, I think there's a lot to be said for that. For personally, as your business partner, it feels like I know there's a steady hand at the wheel, and that, like, if we see a car swerve in front of us, we're not headed into a ditch just because we saw the car swerve or whatever. And so I think we've been a good balance for each other on that particular topic, and it's something I've always admired about your personality, is that you've kind of maintained that cool head. If this is someone, let's say they're listening to this and they're wanting to start a laundromat, or they're just wanting to start a business in general, what are your big takeaways from 10 years? What have you really learned that you think is actionable for that? What would you tell yourself 10 years ago, or what would you tell someone, like, what's worked, what hasn't worked?
With the start of the new year, all the podcasts and business books and all that you listen to, I hear this phrase a lot about how you overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year and you
Yes.
underestimate what you can do in 10 years.
God, isn't that true for us? It's crazy.
It's been the journey of a lifetime, Ian. It really
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
And it's funny how the frustrations you have and the things you do at the time when you're going through it can seem so difficult.
Mhm.
But then 10 years later, you realize it was the origin story of
Yep.
your success. It was the
Mhm.
origin story of where you are now. And I wouldn't trade anything for it. Now, I had to go
Yep.
through tough times and frustrations and a series of unknowns
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
working through it to get to where we are now. And um, if I were to try to go back and redo anything, I wouldn't have the same outcome. And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so
Selling that product and learning all the things we did
mhm,
and getting all the feedback on what could be improved, that was part of the journey of building the better product, right? And building the marketing engine to sell the product that, maybe if you had foreknowledge of, oh, they were going to forget to collect, fees from everyone for a year, or they were going to have a new CEO that maybe you don't agree with the direction they took the company or whatever. It's almost having that foreknowledge might have been damaging. And in fact, not having that foreknowledge, we were able to learn, we were able to grind, we were able to
Yeah.
improve
Yeah. I
and
think that
build.
would
Yeah.
be, I think that would be it. Sometimes too much knowledge actually can be a hindrance to you getting the
Hmm.
ball rolling.
That's right.
So I would say that's my best advice for somebody looking
Yeah.
to get into business for themselves or looking into laundromat ownership in general is
Mm-hmm.
what's the first step you can take? Of course, do your research. Of
Hmm.
course, learn from others what examples they have, what knowledge can you gain. If you can buy a book to learn about somebody else's 10,000 hours of experience, then that's great, money well spent. But don't let a lack of knowing all the pieces prevent you from getting started.
Hmm.
Pick any starting point. Get started. Just get
Hmm.
going. That's going to
Hmm.
inform your next steps.
Yep.
So have courage. Know that no matter what you do, there is 0% chance you're going to get 100% success right from the start. Your batting average only gets better by playing the game. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to get enough things right. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be everything, but as long as you're trying and improving and occasionally getting something right, it's like you just kind of build on those wins.
Yep.
And then the losses or the mistakes are just lessons along the
Yeah,
way,
and that gets to the question about what is the definition of failure, and when it comes to
Mhm.
business, so long as you are profitable and so long as you are still playing the game, you have not
Mhm.
failed.
Right, right,
You
right.
may have found ways that didn't work
Hmm.
and things
Right,
to
right, right.
avoid, but so long as you
Yeah.
did get too upside down on things,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
you get to keep playing the game.
That's right. That's right. Awesome, man. I think I appreciate you setting some
Yeah.
time aside to discuss all these things. It's been kind of fun going down memory lane and getting to talk shop about our last 10 years of building these two great businesses
I can't
together.
believe it's been a decade, man. It's gone
It's
by
crazy.
so fast.
We're both totally different people than we were 10 years ago, uh and I think the biggest difference is not that we have, I mean, the business is sure, but part of it is that we've become the people that we wanted to be 10
Mhm.
years ago, or we've self-actualized kind of the things that we thought we were maybe capable of. Well, I remember thinking when I met you, I was like, well, his dad was able to make it work. I think he'll be able to make it work. He seems like, he'll figure this out. I think he's gonna, whatever it is, he'll be successful at doing something. And uh, now 10 years later, that has really turned out to be true. So I think made the right bet on the right horse there. But I think that it's really been a real honor and privilege to uh, build that together and to,
Appreciate you saying that, man. I literally could
yeah,
not have done it without you.
yeah. Well,
Really
obviously,
feel that
couldn't have done it without you either. Yeah,
the scale and scope of the success we've accomplished has been because of my partnership with you. So
I appreciate that. Right back at you on that one. All right, man. Unless you want to go over anything else, I think we're good.
talk to you later.
All right, have a good one. Thanks for joining us.